Hello. Um, Honestly, I have no idea what I'm gonna talk about, really. Probably politics. I kind of just wanted to do a video before I get rid of my Egypt beard. I've been in Egypt for the last month. I just got home to California, and I traveled very light. Everything I just brought a backpack, so I didn't bring any shaving implements. So you know, wanted to only take essentials. Honestly, didn't even take nail clippers because I don't know if I maybe I was scared it would be problematic in airline security or something because it has the little pokey thing on it. I don't know. Plus, I wasn't supposed to be there an entire month. I was supposed to be there like 3 weeks. But anyway, my nails got a bit long and gnarly, whatever, by the end. And my facial fur is getting to the point where it's obtruding into my eating and drinking hole here. So it's got to go, but it's been glorious blossoming of this. Well, I had about 40 hours in transit between my hotel in Cairo and my home here in California. So that was quite something. I mean, everything about this trip was fairly challenging, most things about it, but it was worth it. It was good. I mean, it was planned before. It was like not my intention to go skipping off during COVID or quarantine or whatever. But not that I judge anybody who would, like I think anybody who wants to control another person's freedom of movement is a fascist. So as long as you're not like trying to be some super spreader, like, I mean, for me to go to Egypt, I took COVID tests. Egypt doesn't seem to have very much COVID, but and then on the way back, the US apparently changed their rules like the day before I was supposed to fly, so they then required negative COVID results from a COVID test, which I was not aware of. So I, got stranded in Egypt for 8 days, and yeah, that was awesome. And Air Canada wouldn't honor my tickets, so had to, they wouldn't reschedule, so had to buy a whole new ticket through Turkish Airlines, and had to get yelled at by men in guns in the Cairo airport, in the Istanbul airport, and then in the San Francisco airport, where they actually detained me for 2 hours, made me sit in a room with a bunch of other hapless travelers, and for no real reason, just so they could ask me a bunch of stupid questions and then let me go. So yeah, fuck the US government in every way. Yeah. And so yeah, back in California, it's luckily I missed the worst of the winter weather here. I missed the storms and floods apparently in my area, and I missed the storms and floods of fascism of January when, and I'm not talking about the Republicans, I'm talking about the Democrats going full fascist and calling everybody a terrorist, and along with, you know, half the left, or maybe most of the left. I mean, is how many people on the left can defend the rights of Trump supporters to protest or to occupy a building in protest, to steal a podium. You know, people are like, well, they took the podium and then they, you know. So yeah, this is where I part ways with seemingly most of the left, or most people who pretend to be leftists and pretend to be left of center at all, because they seem to all be united behind calling whoever was even at the protest outside Congress on January 5th or whatever, you know, most of the left and most of those who, like, they're not leftists, I don't think, in any real sense, but except maybe Stalinists, but basically most people who seem to identify as left of center seem to be united in either calling all those people, anybody who was even at the rally, terrorist, or at the very least don't seem to have a problem with other people calling them terrorists. So this is fascism. I mean, this is what, when people on the right have said that Antifa is fascist, like, you know, I don't think Antifa is fascist, because Antifa is just not really an organization. It's just a bunch of random people. And like, I consider myself Antifa. But there certainly have been Antifa people who have behaved in a fascist manner. And this idea that some people, or a lot of people on the left, have, that like, that's insane, you can't call somebody fascist if they're anti-fascist. It's just like semantic stupidity, like just that somehow you're obliged to take everybody at their word. Anything that they claim to be for or against, you're somehow obliged to accept that. It's like, anybody who's really that delusional is, you know, basically a danger to themselves and others. So a lot of these people, yeah, are fascists, fascist Dems, fascist faux lefties, and yeah, I mean, I consider them faux lefties because leftism is about egalitarianism and freedom. You know, leftism is a French concept, a French word. You know, there's the etymological genesis of the term leftism as a political denominator is French, and it refers to the movement that was always that was founded under the banner of, very explicitly, liberty, equality, fraternity, or, you know, liberty, equality, fraternity. So the first of those is freedom, liberty. Second is equality. So when people are wanting to put people on terror lists and no-fly lists just for attending a rally, that's obviously not liberty, and I don't think it's equality either. So, and it's not very fraternal either. So it's in no sense leftist, other than just, oh, well, they call themselves leftists, some of them. That doesn't mean anything to me, you know. There are murderers who call themselves innocent. There are, you know, war criminals who call themselves, you know, peaceful. Doesn't mean anything to me. Like, what people call themselves is meaningless next to what they actually are, what they actually do. So I just came off my Twitter ban for, I had been banned for a week or so for something. Oh, telling off some people who wanted to kill all white people. And I told them, try it, try and die, Nazis. So for that, I got banned for a week. And then I got some message like, if I, disobey the Twitter rules again, I may be banned permanently. But it might not even matter because it seems like they have me so muted that nobody sees my tweets. Like, so I'll tweet this video out and probably nobody will see it. But at least I tried to speak to the world from my little lockdown room or whatever. So yeah, I think we need a revolution. But we need a smart revolution, not just a bunch of people flailing around in the streets, getting scooped up and shot and put on lists and whatever. I mean, ultimately what we need to do, or really what we need to do, is just form a new government. Just do what they did in 1776. The British claimed dominion over the US. So the American, patriots, they just formed a new government. They formed the Continental Congress. They declared ultimately that, with the Declaration of Independence, they basically nullified British rule in America. That's what we need to do. We need to nullify the rule from DC, which has long been unconstitutional and terrorist. The government are terrorists, and it's funny, like, terrorism is almost always applied to non-state actors, like just individuals and groups and whatever, the term terrorism, terrorist. But originally, again, the term is French origin, from the French Revolution, and basically the terrorists were the people who basically overthrew the left and then claimed themselves to be the sole arbiters of leftism. Basically the first Stalinists, the Jacobins, I don't know if the Jacobins were always bad, but by the time that Robespierre was fully basically in charge, to my knowledge, I think he had a lot of undue power, and his little kind of committee or whatever, they basically canceled all elections, declared state of emergency, canceled all elections, and instituted the terror, which was just a purge of all like political opponents, or just kind of all kinds of people who just got in the way of their purge. And so terrorism is in the original sense, it's a state. It means like a government that is unjustly, egregiously depriving citizens of their rights, and up to and including killing people. And our government certainly kills a lot of people, kills a lot of Americans, kills a lot of non-Americans. So yeah, if you're against terrorism, you should help me to, do away with this terrorist government, try to establish a new government in its stead. And I mean, it's nothing to it but to do it. Like, if we can get everybody in this country to withdraw their allegiance from the U.S. government and put their allegiance in each other and in human rights, then that would be the revolution. You know, it doesn't have to be violent. You know, hopefully, I mean, I think a lot of people in the military would agree that the government has gone astray. A lot of people in even the police might agree to that. So, you know, that's what we need to do. I proposed this when Trump was elected, you know, when they basically rigged Bernie out of the primary and then we got Trump. I proposed that we basically hold a convention online and establish a new government. But it didn't really seem to get any traction. I don't know, maybe I was just muted again on social media so much that very few, if any, people saw it. But again, you know, I'm always basically calling for that, and I'll continue to call for that. And if you're not calling for that, like, what are you doing? Like, if you claimed you're opposing like tyranny, I mean, of course, there's the people who claim to support, you know, claim that Biden is the antidote to tyranny, who are just a total disgrace, you know. Like, if you're an adult and, like, I mean, if you don't know anything about politics, if you don't know anything about Biden's record as a war criminal, as a rapist, as a racist, etc., okay, that's fine. Then just say, I don't know anything about politics. Fine. You should try to learn about politics, but fine. But if you're going to pretend to know and say that Biden is any kind of positive force in the world, then that's disgraceful, you know, like, that's a full abrogation of your duty as a citizen. So yeah, if anybody hears this, sees this, you know, I'm calling for a new government. I mean, it would be better to basically have no government than what we have, but I mean, ultimately, there will always be people who will stand up for justice, and to that extent, that would be the government. But if we can have a more organized, democratic, you know, government that supplants the terrorist organization that's based in DC, that's based out of the building that was, you know, that was stormed by the, you know, Trump supporters, then we should, you know, and it's basically incumbent on us to try to do so. So, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to have a lot of hope right now because, you know, a lot of the country seems very, very servile, either willing to let Trump be, you know, a dictator, or willing to let Biden be a dictator, or willing to let some further left or further right or maybe centrist, whatever, be a dictator. I mean, basically the idea of freedom it seems very unpopular, except when it's like convenient. So, and you know, for the libertarians, you know, they're great on a lot of the civil liberties issues, but they don't seem to understand generally, or most of them don't understand that the property system is not libertarian. It's not, there's no freedom when you're born into a system of extreme property inequality that you didn't consent to. Particularly property inequality in land and natural resources, which were just arbitrarily sold off by the state, basically, or, you know, in many circumstances. I mean, or like in Europe, a lot of it was just taken by conquest by like the Normans or the Franks or what have you. And then passed along to their descendants, who like had the right to sell it as for money as they saw fit. So yeah, there's nothing libertarian about the property inequality that especially in land, that has characterized human society, and especially where there's extreme poverty, it's tended to be the main engine, or at least one of the main engines of that poverty. So, all right. So this is my last beard video before I get rid of this weird, multicolored, misshapen, beautiful thing growing out of my face. All right, so if anybody is interested in forming a new government with me, and hopefully with millions of others, drop a comment in this video if you can, if you don't mind. And yeah, I mean, hopefully we can get that ball rolling, because that's the appropriate course of action as far as I can tell. So thank you, and take care.